Καλημέρα και από μένα. Ελπίζω να με ακούτε. Ευχαριστώ πάρα πολύ τους διοργανωτές για την πολύ τιμητική πρόσκληση να συντονίσω ένα πάνελ που είναι πάρα πολύ επίκαιρο. Δεν χρειάζεται να εξηγήσω τους λόγους. Νομίζω όλοι αντιλαμβανόμαστε το γιατί. Οι συνέπειες της κρίσης, αυτή τη στιγμή που μένετε στη Μέση Ανατολή, είναι απροσδιόριστες, όπως απροσδιόριστος είναι και ο χρόνος που θα χρειαστεί για το πέρας των επιχειρήσεων, αλλά βέβαια και ποια θα είναι η επόμενη μέρα. If I may, I will now switch into English. So it has been 33 days since Hamas launched its heinous terrorist attack on Israel. As expected, in order to restore a sense of security among its citizens, following the unprecedented experience, Israel counterattacked and now appears to control the city of Gaza. But there are large numbers of civilian casualties as well, and this has to concern us, in spite of the repugnance of the methods employed by terrorist organizations like Hamas. This war is altering the state of affairs and relations in the wider region, and in the short time we have at our disposal, my fellow speakers and I will try to respond to the most salient questions facing the global community at this time. So without delay, I would like to pose the first question for the Israeli ambassador to Greece and to say, regarding the procedure, that I will pose up to 3 questions, and I ask that the responses be kept to under 3 minutes. So, Your Excellency, Mr. Ambassador, what are Israel's strategic goals beyond wiping out Hamas and the threat Hamas poses to Israel's security? Because it's not clear to me how much time Israel has to do that before there starts to be regional repercussions that might force it to rethink its strategy in Gaza.
Well, Israel was forced into a defensive war that was forced upon it by a genocidal, murderous terror organization, Hamas, that is the ISIS of Gaza. And we need to understand that Hamas controlled the Gaza Strip and established there a terror state and a terror army, and he took it over in a bloody coup from the Palestinian Authority. And since then, for 17 years, it's built a state with repressive type of regime, effective control, as I said, on the Gaza land and on the Gazan people. Our goals in this war are very clear. We need to completely dismantle this terror state and this terror army, and to verify that this group, Hamas, will be held accountable for the crimes and will not be part of the future of Gaza Strip and of our region. Our second goal is to free all hostages. This is a problem that is not only an Israeli problem. We have many of the people that are taken hostages that are dual nationalities. It's a war crime. And we demand an immediate and unconditional release of these hostages. The third thing that is our objective is to verify that this war will not be broadened. We don't want a war with other proxies that are led by the Iranian Ayatollahs to join the war. We warn them, we are prepared. We want to deter them, Iran, the proxies, and the countries that host them. But if we will be challenged, we will react and defend ourselves forcefully. We would like to establish a new situation in Gaza that will allow Gaza to release itself from Hamas and to rebuild itself. I can tell you, Hamas will not be part of the future of Gaza, and Israel is not going to reoccupy Gaza. What we are going maybe to maintain for a long time is our military freedom of operation to see that remnants and scattered Hamas will not re-emerge, regroup, and pop again in Gaza. And I think it's in the interest of everybody that Gaza will be released from Hamas, that Palestinians in Gaza will be able to build their life properly and to get some hope. And I would dare say that it is our own interest, Israelis but also Palestinians alike, to find in the future the way to end the conflict between us. It will take time, but the first step, the foundation, is destroying completely Hamas.
Thank you, Mr. Ambassador. I was reading a poll, a recent one, that was conducted in Gaza, and the numbers were against Hamas. I mean, it showed that its influence was waning and its popularity had been diminished. I only hope that this is not going to change after the war. Mr. Hadzivasiliou, as in the war in Ukraine, Greece has maintained a clear stance from the outset. Why is this the case? Allied solidarity, a principled stance, respect for the provisions of international law, all of the above?
You know that Greece stands with international law by all means, and we have a crystal clear position that cannot be misunderstood by anybody, neither Israel nor the Palestinian side. You know that we're extremely concerned with this crisis because this crisis is totally unnecessary in that corner of the world. And we are really concerned by a potential spillover effect across the region. And I'm sure that you agree with that, Ambassador. Middle East does not need a new general war now. And this is why we are trying to help towards this direction. So for the very first moment, Mr. Φίλης, we have condemned the terrorist attack perpetrated by Hamas. And we have underlined the right of Israel to self-defense, of course, within the barriers of the international and humanitarian law. This is why the Greek government speaks about the hostages and the civilians. Our top priority is to send a clear message that all civilians should be protected by the international, let's say, political scene. The problem lies with the Hamas. This is why we have made the clear distinction between the terrorist organization of Hamas and the Palestinian people or the Palestinian Authority. So Greece believes that we have to find ways altogether in order to restart, to give a new impetus to the political process, because the only viable solution to this crisis is to sit on the table and to discuss again ways to find a two-state solution. I know this is not easy, this is very difficult, but we have to understand that Israel has the right to exist in the region, and the Palestinians should have their own state within the barriers of the 1967. So Greece is in a very good position of being an honest broker. We have traditional good relations with the Arab world, but Israel is a long-standing and important partner to Greece and to the Greek people. This is why we believe that we are always ready there to assist in order to find a way out of this crisis, of course, in the barriers of the international law. This is our red line, and we are very clear towards that direction.
Thank you. And I should stress at this point that all governments in Greece consecutively supported this rapprochement and restoring of ties, actually enhancement with Israel, despite the fact that we all know that we were the last Western country to recognize Israel back in 1990. But now I think that we are in the right direction. Mr. Ambassador, what shape do you think Israel's relations with the Palestinians, as well as with the Arab states, will take as the victims in Gaza multiply day by day?
Well, first we need to understand that the war that we are handling is not with Palestinians. The war is against Hamas, that entrenched itself within the civilian population and the civil infrastructure. In fact, Gaza City itself is a fortress that includes an underground city of hundreds of kilometers of tunnels and bunkers, and the Hamas is trying to prevent civilians from leaving those places. It entrenches itself inside the hospital, under hospitals, and it creates a huge problem for us when we want to uproot and dismantle them. First, we call and urge all Palestinians to leave the areas of operation, and we do it now for 24 days. We started a week before the ground operation to call them to leave the areas that are going to be area of battle. We have created safer areas in the southern part of Gaza Strip, where we hope that the people will be able to go for temporary period. We are allowing extensive humanitarian aid going in. Greece has donated as well. We are establishing their hospitals and supplies going in. And by the day, including today, at this very moment, people are evacuating the areas of war. And I think that close to 1 million that are living in those areas have already left the places, and we will do our utmost to defend them. It is clear for us that after the Hamas will be dismantled, we will have to sit with the Palestinians and find solutions. First, the Palestinians in Gaza that will have to handle their own issues. We expect and we hope that the full architecture of peace that was constructed in the Middle East, that include Egypt and Jordan and the Abraham Accord countries and Morocco, will be part of it. We believe that the architecture of peace is to give more stability to the Middle East, is seeing eye to eye in the need to have peaceful future for the Middle East. In fact, we believe that that architecture will be able to lead also the more pragmatic parts of Palestinians back into negotiating table. And I'm sure that the time will come for that. I have an expectation that after we defeat Hamas, the network of peace in the Middle East will be growing, will be holding on at the moment, and will be growing in the future.
So you're not concerned that what is happening in Gaza and is about to happen might damage your ties with some Arab states that recognize Israel under the Abraham Accords, or might even freeze the the process that was underway between Israel and Saudi Arabia. And I'm asking that because although many of these governments cannot be held accountable to their people, it's the nature of the way they govern. However, they have to show that in a way they listen to their people. And it seems that Arab and Muslim societies today are very much against Israel, maybe because they think with their hearts rather than their minds, but still they affect how leaderships approach Israel as well. What do you think about that?
First, we are aware of the challenge, and it's a challenge that we should not underestimate. But I think that the governments of the countries in the region are aware of their need, first, to communicate that it's not against Palestinians. And I think, for example, when you see the level of coordination of Egypt with the international community, with the United States, with supplying humanitarian aid, with convening conferences like the conference that was in Cairo, they reflect to their own people that they care about Palestinian, and in a very, I will say, nuanced way, not very publicly, except maybe one state, which is the Emirate, condemning and seeing Hamas as the problem. Hamas is representing a huge problem for all the moderate and pragmatic countries in the Middle East, because it's a political, ideological interpretation that is not interested in diplomatic or political solution. They are interested in a victory and establishing a caliphate that is based solely on their own, I will say, twisted interpretation of religion and politics. It's a threat for Egypt, it's a threat for Jordan, it's a threat for the Palestinian Authority. In fact, those people slaughtered the Palestinian Authority people in 2006 when they took over, 2006, 2007 when they took over Palestinian Authority.
There were elections, though. I mean,
they were elected locally in Gaza, and they did a bloody coup and throw out the Palestinian Authority. Therefore, the Palestinian Authority is completely out of Gaza, and they killed their people. So it is not a peaceful or an organization that is seeking solution. We were fooled. We were lowering our guards because we had a wrong understanding that an organization that took over a full area and established their state might be becoming more pragmatic. 6th of October, 20,000 Palestinians worked in Israel. Palestinians were going to medical treatment in Israel. Trade was going in and out, yes, monitored to see that it's not explosive and weapons from the Israeli border, but was allowed. People were going in and out Israel. All this is now completely shut down. The people of Hamas don't care about their own people, and the medicine, sorry to say, to use that metaphor, is a very bitter medicine, but we have to uproot them to secure future.
To be fair, I want to underscore that there are some circles within Israel that prefer Hamas as their interlocutor rather than the Palestinian Authority. I only hope that these circles are going to be marginalized as well. So, Mr. Hadzivasiliou, is there a way for Greece to become more actively involved by, for example, opening or contributing to humanitarian corridors? And what does Greece have to fear from the present crisis, even if it does not spread? Migration flows, terrorist attacks, a humanitarian crisis, higher prices for energy and other goods?
Unfortunately, all of them. They are problems we have to deal with. I'm sure that now number one priority is to find a way to help people in Gaza, to help civilians. As you see, we have a terrorist organization there, Hamas, and we have to send a message that this organization should be defeated. Otherwise, we cannot discuss about the solution. But there are normal people in Gaza that need our help. So today, as you know, the Prime Minister, Greek Prime Minister, Mr. Mitsotakis, he's in Paris in a forum organized by Monsieur Macron, discussing about potential, let's say, ways of helping people in Gaza. So we would be very happy to play a pivotal role in finding a maritime corridor, in establishing a maritime corridor from Europe towards Gaza in order to help those in need. But there are two preconditions about this assistance. Number one, we have to be sure that the ships should arrive there in a safe way. You know that the situation is very difficult, so we have to be sure about security. And number two, this humanitarian aid should be managed by those in need. There are some, news that some members of Hamas, sometimes they can use a part of humanitarian aid. Therefore, we have to be sure that this time everything should be on the right hand. Concerning the dangers, yes, number one danger is not a danger, it's a challenge, is migration. We believe that a potential spillover effect could set a trigger for that danger, but we believe that the evacuation of Gaza by the Palestinians is not a solution to the problem. And I think that you agree with that. The Palestinians should stay there. But in any case, Greece is always a country that follows international humanitarian law, so we could give shelter to those that they need it and they have the right to be protected according to the law. Problem number two, yes, the energy prices. You know that we have paid a high cost after the Ukrainian war. Therefore, now we try to find ways in order not to have a new increase in the energy prices. But you know that the government is always ready to help Greek citizens, especially if there is a new crisis. And the third problem is against the regional stability. Mr. Φίλης, we believe that all those challenges could be addressed through multilateral projects. And this is why I would like to underline the 3+1 mechanism, which is a very important forum in which we both participate along with the Cypriots and the Americans. It could be a tool of solving problems, a tool of prosperity, a tool of stability and peace. Therefore, I think that this mechanism could pave the way in order to address altogether potential challenges like the ones you mentioned before. And I'm very optimistic that we could find ways to elaborate and to underline the importance of this project, not only for the Middle Eastern region, but for the neighborhood as a whole.
And I suggest that more countries are involved, not in that particular mechanism, but overall in making sure that problems can be solved in a sustainable way. Mr. Ambassador, what does Israel want to see happen when this crisis is over in the Gaza Strip and on the Palestinian issue? Are you willing to exhaust the margins for a two-state solution? And if so, what are the conditions for this?
I think that when Hamas will be out of the equation, the first priority will be to rehabilitate Gaza and to allow the people that are living in Gaza to go back to their homes and to start to build their own future there. That will be the immediate need. Saying that, it will be also an immediate need to secure that Hamas is not resurging and resurfacing in Gaza. The second thing will be that I think that Israelis, countries in the region, and also the Palestinians will have to go back to negotiating table. It will not be an immediate outcome. We have to understand that we are speaking about a long process. We are speaking about high emotions that will be extremely high and not positive among Israelis and among Palestinians. And we will have to stabilize our own political systems after the war in order to allow that to succeed. We need to see that we will not rush to create situations that will be yet another failure. Because I don't think that our societies are capable to sustain more failures. So it has to be slow and constructed, and we have to understand also that the Palestinian Authority at the moment is a weak authority. Some people will say that it is Israel blamed that they are weak, but they are weak because they have an internal struggle also in the places that are controlled between by the Palestinian Authority, that there are strong forces and opinions and emotions that are supporting Hamas even there. That's why the Palestinian Authority was incapable of doing election in the past. And Palestinians will have to change mindset. And to change mindset means that they will have to recognize and acknowledge that Israel has a right to exist as the nation state of the Jewish people, and that they are not dreaming anymore of Palestine will be free from the river to the sea, because from the river to the sea means that there is no Israel and no self-determination for the Jewish people. They will have to come to terms with that, and we will have to come to terms with our own opinions, and as I said, emotions will be high also in Israel. It's a long process. We should see it. We should aim to there, but we should be very pragmatic. We are dealing now with, as we said, with the foundation of dealing with the problem that was created by Hamas.
It's a long process. We have not yet reached that point, but let us be practical. In an ideal scenario for Israel, Hamas is overthrown, is dismantled, then something like elections has to be conducted in Gaza for a new government to be elected. Who is going to take over security? Because we listened Prime Minister Netanyahu saying that for an indefinite period of time, Israel will be in charge of the security in Gaza Strip. There is a paradox here, to put it elegantly and mildly. If Israel remains in Gaza, it will be regarded as an occupying force, and that is not going to facilitate any solution. So what, in your mind, is the ideal scenario?
Well, I don't think that this dichotomy that you are posing here is real. And you can have it both. It means Israel is not going to reoccupy Gaza, and Israel probably will be out of Gaza, but Israel will continue to supervise security in Gaza. You don't have to, we are not, based on our agreement with the Palestinian Authority and the peace agreement from Oslo and the other way. We have overall security responsibility also in the West Bank. We have areas that are full under the responsibility of the Palestinian Authority, and only when they are failing to take care of that, Israel is intervening. So you can imagine that there are solutions without being occupier force in Gaza. We left Gaza with the understanding in 2005 that we are not going back to Gaza. I know that there are some voices at the margins of the Israeli society that would like to go back to Gaza, re-establish their Jewish communities. They are at the margins. It's not the government. It's not the opinion of the majority of Israelis. What we want is to live safely in Israel, and we want that the people in Gaza will realize that peace for them is within Gaza and not by attacking Israel and dreaming about the annihilation of Israel. We have 17 years of indoctrination by Hamas, kindergartens and schools and mosques and social activity that was all building indoctrination of hate. We will have to deal with that as well. But first, we have to stabilize the situation there.
Thank you. Mr. Χατζηβασιλείου, how do you think Greek-Turkish relations will be impacted? Ms. Papadopoulou, Deputy Foreign Minister, said there would probably be a positive impact. But the further Turkey diverges from the West, aren't you worried that Ankara won't feel committed to a responsible policy towards its neighbors?
Yes, you know that Erdogan's rhetoric puts him at odds, first of all, with Israel, because he does not condemn what Hamas did on October 7th against Israeli civilians. Why? I believe that, in essence, Mr. Erdogan prioritizes his choice to address the international Muslim community. When you listen to Mr. Erdogan's speeches, he does not speak only to the Turkish people. Mm-hmm. He addresses the international Muslim community because he wants to become the new father of the Sunni Islamic world. Probably this is his project. At the same time, I think that Erdogan burns out every bridge he tried to build with Israel in the previous months. For example, he was planning to discuss about an energy pipeline from Israel to Turkey and then to the European markets. Probably this project now is out of the table. Maybe the EastMed project now gains some points, but it's another matter of discussion. So I think that the recent crisis in the Middle East region shows that Greece and Turkey share diametrically opposed views even in this issue. Mm-hmm. But that doesn't mean that we have to oppose to each other. Why? Because now the calm wave we have in the Aegean, this good period in the Greek-Turkish relations, is the only positive new in a neighborhood between two wars. We have one war in Ukraine and the new crisis in the Middle Eastern region. That means that we have to find ways to preserve the Greek-Turkish dialogue mm-hmm. and to preserve this serenity, this tranquility, somehow, over the Aegean Sea. But yes, if Turkey continues a rhetoric against the Western world, probably things will become difficult. For example, I feel sometimes that Erdogan sets Turkey's NATO identity into doubt mm-hmm. with his public discourse. But in any case, we plan to maintain this effort between Greece and Turkey because we have to build trust. This is what the Greek-Turkish relations lack all these years. And yes, our plan is to organize the high-level meeting in Thessaloniki on December 7th, trying to find, let's say, mutual points of connection in law politics, in the so-called positive agenda. I know that it's not so easy, it's not so simple, but I truly support that we have to keep the process ongoing, despite the fact that Turkey puts her Western identity into doubt every day. And this is, I think, the big problem in the region, not only for us, but also for the Americans, the NATO, and of course, the Europeans.
And besides, we seem to be one of the very few European and Western countries to give Mr. Erdogan a way out of his current self-isolation, which is not bad.
This is not
bad.
Yes.
It's not bad at all. So I'd like to thank the ambassador of Israel to Greece for his comments and his input. Mr. Χατζηβασιλείου as well. Κυρίες και κύριοι, καταφέραμε να τηρήσουμε το χρόνο. γιατί δεν είναι πάντα εύκολο αυτό, ιδίως όταν έχεις μια έτσι, πολύ ενδιαφέρουσα συζήτηση με δύο εξαιρετικούς ομιλητές. Μπορούμε να βγάλουμε όλα τα συμπεράσματά μας. Αν κάτι είναι στο οποίο συμφωνούμε, ανεξάρτητα από την προσέγγιση που έχουμε στα ζητήματα, είναι ότι θα πάρει χρόνο για να διευθετηθεί αυτή η κρίση και επίσης ότι μπορεί να μην ξέρουμε ακόμη με ποιον ακριβώς τρόπο θα διευθετηθεί, ποιο θα είναι δηλαδή το endgame αυτής της νέας κρίσης που έχει ξεσπάσει στη Μέση Ανατολή. Σας ευχαριστώ πολύ.
Thank you very much.